Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to Arcade Repair Tips. I've got Tim here, and if you guys saw our previous video, you may have seen that Tim went to visit some people who were involved with the Arcade1Up and got to play some of the games. Well, we took your questions and comments from that video, and we're going to go over them with Tim today, just so you guys can get some feedback on some of those things. So I'll be reading these from some of the comments, Tim, we got on our previous video about Arcade1Up. Okay. For those of you guys who don't know us, my name's Jonathan, and this is Tim. And usually we do arcade repair videos, but we've been covering the Arcade1Up as well because, Tim, it's kind of a crossover audience for us, right?
Sure.
So, anyway, but we want to thank Pollution Studios. In the previous video, we said P1 Studios.
Yeah, I don't know why. I think they just have a big P out on the building. Maybe I don't know why I was thinking that, but sorry about that. Especially Dale, I want to apologize. It is Pollution Studios.
Right. So instead of P1 Studios, Pollution Studios, we want to thank them for allowing us to come in. And Tim, they are the ad agency for Arcade1Up. So that's where Tim went, where he got to go. He got to play all of the core, what they call the core models, basically all the first release models, and the final fight.
Right.
Which is not going to be released till spring, right, Tim?
Correct.
So, again, we want to thank Pollution Studios for that. Now, Tim, here's the questions. I'm going to read some. We'll get your advice, opinions on some of these things. And the first one I have here is from Random Hijali, I guess I'm going to say. And he says, how did Lunar Lander play? I'm curious how they adapted the analog thruster control.
Well, it didn't have a thruster control on it. You just kind of use a push button for the thrust.
Right. So, I mean, I don't know how you could simulate that. I don't know if there's a real good way without putting a custom control on it.
Right. But, I mean, you know.
It's still Lunar Lander, though,
It's still
right?
Lunar Lander. It was okay, you know. It just, usually it's a little thrust for it. A button is a thrust.
Right, exactly. Okay, Rogue Lyric says, thanks for the great review. Did you get a chance to play Missile Command or Crystal Castles? And if so, did they look smaller on the vertical centipede screen?
Well, they do look kind of smaller because the screen is like, instead of being horizontal, it's on a vertical screen.
Just like the one that we're showing here.
Right.
And we're going to get to why this is here in a second. This is
right.
what's happening. But anyway,
so
this is a vertically mounted monitor. Vertically oriented monitor.
They stretched it to fit the screen this way, but it's not stretched this way. It looks just fine, but you do have some black bars across, and I'm pretty sure Missile Command is the same way.
Right. So basically, whenever you're trying to fit a horizontal picture on a vertical tube, you're going to have those black bars at the bottom and top. Just like as if you were trying to play Centipede on a horizontal monitor, you'd have the black bars on the sides.
Right. These are on the top and bottom.
Right. So they stretch it as much as they can, but they don't stretch the aspect ratio. They don't change what it is. It's still horizontal orientation, technically. So. Okay, Sling Spade says, was there any input lag on the 1-Up Street Fighter cabinet? If so, how bad was it?
You know, I didn't notice any more than the normal game. I think the normal game even has a little bit occasionally. I didn't notice, to be honest, you know.
Now, you had David with you, too.
David was playing it a lot, and I couldn't get him off of it. And he didn't complain or say anything about that. So, as far as I know, it was not any worse than normal gameplay.
Gotcha. Okay, sounds good to me. Howard Malone says, how are the controls for Defender on the Rampage cabinet?
Well, I didn't play it on there, but I'm assuming that it's not the Defender layout.
Right. It's actually the Rampage layout.
Yeah, it's the Rampage layout. So, you know, I'm sure it's going to take a little while. If you're a huge Defender player and you're used to buttons being a certain area, I'm terrible at Defender. And I have to read the words, you know, to see where I'm playing. So I think, though, if you just play it for a little bit, I'm sure you'll get it down. But it's definitely different than a Defender layout. It's not the Defender layout.
Now, we should mention that each game will show you what the layout is for the particular game. So when you select Defender, it'll show you where those buttons are mapped to. But I'm with you, Tim. On a game like Defender, you really need the labels there a lot of times because I forget like what's hyperspace and thrust and all that kind of stuff, right?
Right. I guess I was so excited to play Rampage, I didn't really think about Defender at the time.
Sure. And
we didn't have a super long time. We didn't want to take up all day, but we didn't play as much as we could.
There you go. Okay, next one here, Tim, is from Cheesem98. So from your experience, it sounds like the spinner on the Asteroids cabinet does not maintain its spin like the arcade original. Is this correct? I am trying to decide between the Centipede and Deluxe, the Centipede Asteroids combined cabinets. I am assuming that the spinner on the cab will be the same on the Asteroids cabinet, and if the spinner isn't that good, that may push me towards the Centipede cabinet, as the Tempest would be the main reason I would want to get the Deluxe. Thank you for your video. So, Tim, it sounds like the spinner on the Asteroids cabinet does not maintain its spin like the arcade original. Is this correct?
Well, you guys, you have to understand, our audience is dedicated, hardcore arcade collectors.
Sure.
And it is not the same. it works and it does its job. And to the average person, you may be perfectly happy with that. So I don't want to totally dissuade you, but if you're a big Tempest fan and like the whirl and how it spins really fast, it is different. It's not as fast, and I couldn't make it spin around as fast.
Now, we have seen some videos, Tim, online where people have modified, because these have already been kind of pre-released in some places, where people have loosened the spinner just a bit, and it's performed a little bit better.
Okay.
But we did have some questions here that I think are relevant from D-Town8532. He says, are you able to swap out the spinner on the asteroids with a better one? And then Stephen Wagner behind that goes, I'd like to know this too. He mentions in the video that the controls could be swapped out. I've seen another video saying that buying the controls wouldn't be difficult because standard arcade controller parts and connections are used. My question is, where can I find a Tempest spinner of high quality? So Tim, two things here. Are we able to swap out the spinner? You think it'd be possible?
I think it's possible. The problem is, when I talked about arcade controls swapping out, what's still produced today is joysticks and buttons.
Right.
I'm not even sure that anybody is reproducing or remanufacturing the spinner. If
that
they are,
specific spinner. Because I've seen, I was about to say, I don't know if I've seen a reproduction Tempest, but we have seen the generic arcade spinners.
Yes.
That, and so maybe one of those. If there is a reproduction Tempest spinner, though, you think it would drop in pretty easily?
I think you could probably mod it pretty easily if that's important to you. But again, you're still talking. Tempest really is a different animal, and if you want a Tempest, I would collect and get a new original Tempest.
Well, sure. Well, but an original Tempest is not going to be $300.
Exactly, and you're not going to be able to find. I mean, I wouldn't take one off of a Tempest to put onto there.
Sure.
So I think I would either just play it like it's kind of like the Lunar Lander. It's not the same control, but you are able to play it.
Right, exactly. Now, if you need arcade parts, we have a webpage, Tim, arcaderepairtips.com/resources. If you guys go there, the very first heading says arcade parts suppliers, okay? And so if there is a spinner available, I'm sure that one of the suppliers on our resources page will probably have that.
Right, and just because I don't know one doesn't mean there's not one. I just haven't fixed one in years.
Sure.
And I've always repaired them. So I haven't replaced one in 20 years. So, there might be exact replicas out there. And if there is, maybe somebody will comment or share a link at the bottom.
Arcaderepairtips.com/resources if you want to find out more about that. So, Tim, Dan Max 2 says, can you play Gauntlet with 3 players?
No, it's only 2 players.
So it's only the 2-player ROM.
Right.
So you're not going to be able to play that 3rd player with.
No. Even though it's a 3 players,
right.
I think it's only 2 players on that game if I remember right. I'm pretty sure.
Sounds good. Okay, Cosmic Server says, that was a good, honest review, and I'm going to get one because I'm not a gamer and it'd be fun to have something like this around to play. How many units do you think they're going to sell at Christmas time from people buying them for their kids because they're fun and retro? It's going to be insane, I think, because for smaller kids, these are just the right size to stand up to and play without something boosting them up to reach the console. So, Tim, just any guess about how many of these are going to sell? Because, here's the deal. We've already know that their pre-order, their allotment has been exceeded because they pushed back the release date, which we'll talk about here in a second. But any idea? You want to take a conjecture?
Maybe 1 to 2 million units. I think that's realistic.
That's a lot of units. If they push that many, I'm sure they're going to be profitable.
When you think of that, pinball machines, like we talk about a lot, 10,000 would be a lot of units.
Sure.
Or something. So I would definitely think they're going to be up there pretty high. But, and because they made them affordable and it is a different market and you can have them in places, you don't have to have a garage this big. I think that it is going to hit a certain market. I hope they sell that many anyway.
There you go. And the last one here, Tim, I just kind of put in here. This is from Finding the Sun Records. He says, funny how they don't say anything negative about these cabinets. Here, I will say it for you guys. These cabinets are straight trash. And, Tim, here's the deal, is that... I thought we were kind of you were critical of things. The spinner?
I wouldn't think that I was totally. We're not paid endorsers or anything. I think that I was just basically giving an honest opinion. John, when I walked in, I really, we had the debate topic, and I'm a huge arcade collector and fan of the big guys that you see behind us. So I just didn't really think, but they kind of won me over. I think they're. For what they are, I think they're a good deal, and they're fun to play. What else, you know?
What else is there?
That just makes, when it's fun to play, it's fun to play. And I'm not going to be dishonest and say I hated them.
Sure.
And I really wasn't a big fan until I saw them. It did really help seeing them in person and playing them. And
yeah, and we should say this: you were pretty skeptical.
Yeah,
obviously.
really skeptical.
So I'm not. I mean, and here's the deal: people thought you were being negative. I don't think that was negativity coming out. I think it was just skepticism. It's like, how can they put together something of quality for $300, right?
Exactly, and that was me being as total honest as I could be. Like I said, we're not getting paid by them. We have no affiliation, except for they were very nice and let us play them.
Exactly.
And I appreciate that much. But, you know, I mean, you have these guys that get consoles and stuff, and you know they're giving these great reviews because they want another console.
Sure.
It's not that way, guys. I just wanted to give an honest opinion from an arcade collector's standpoint. And you got to understand where I'm coming from. I'm very particular about my games and how they look and how they play. So, yeah, I would think some of the stuff I said was very positive. And I think some of it, basically, I said could use some improvement,
sure,
in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that there was no T-molding on them. You mentioned that the marquees didn't light up. Those are some things that you weren't as high on. But at the same time, you're like, for the price you're paying, it's a good value.
Oh, I think so.
There you go. So let me get to just a couple of notes here, Tim, and we're going to wrap it up. This first one here is that the release date, like we mentioned, has been moved, the street date.
Right.
And I actually have the little press release here, and this came from Pollution Studios. Actually, Dale sent this to me. And it says release date has been moved from September 25th to October 16th. The pre-order response for our machines exceeded our expectations. As a result, this has significantly reduced available in-store inventory, which of course we want for our launch. We have therefore moved the street date to October 16th. If you have already pre-ordered one of the core machines, which were the ones you got to play, Tim, we have encouraged our retail partners to honor the September 25th ship date whenever possible, as initially planned. However, the Best Buy 12-in-1 machine is a limited edition machine, and that one has been delayed until 10/16 for both pre-order and in-store.
Right.
Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. So if you have the 12-in-1 pre-ordered, which, Tim, I actually laid down money on a 12-in-1 pre-order myself after your glowing review, I should mention.
Okay.
If you have that one pre-ordered, it is delayed until October 16th. The rest of them, though, Tim, could be available as soon as September 25th. So going back to that. Now, I also want to mention this, Tim. Some of the things I just wanted to kind of go back over with people who may not have seen the original video is that one of the things you explained is that they told you that the reason why they're the size that they are is that that was the largest they could make under the license that they held, right?
That's the impression from what I understood, and they haven't corrected us, so I think we were correct in saying that. They're a licensed toy manufacturer, and they were building small keychains and stuff keychain arcades and stuff like that. And so this was the biggest size that they could mass produce with their current license, I think. So without being a stand-up arcade game.
Exactly, because then you have to compete in a totally different market, right? Okay, and that's what it comes down to. Now, Tim, there's also been a lot of people who said the reason it's the size that it is because of retail space. And I think that has something to do with it as well. Being able to put one on a shelf, being able to have it in a warehouse and be able to store it properly, those are important things to retailers in order to get them in the stores.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of the reason, too, why they are the size that they are. Retailer space is limited, so you want to be able to make it as small as you can, smallest footprint possible in order to get them on shelves.
Right.
So, now, Tim, you said something in our video that you stood up and you said it's kind of the size of a cabaret cabinet. Well, guess what I have in the video today with us?
This is your PacMan dedicated cabaret cabinet.
So, guys, this is a commercial unit. Okay,
right.
It has a coin door on it. Okay, this was back from the '80s, and Tim, a lot of times they would use cabarets in places that didn't have the space for a full-size arcade cabinet.
Right.
Okay, so Tim, I wanted to just do some research and tell you how close were you to saying it was a cabaret.
Okay.
Right? And so I did some research, and here's the thing: the Arcade1Up cabinet is 57.8 inches tall. With the riser.
With the riser.
So there's a picture of Tim
riser
standing next to the centipede, okay, and it says with that one had the riser that is 57.8 inches tall. This PacMan Cabaret cabinet, do you care to guess how tall it is?
58.
58.5 inches. So you're talking about less than an inch difference between the Cabaret and an Arcade1Up on the riser.
Right.
So when you said Cabaret, Tim, you were almost spot on.
Well, I could tell by standing and playing it, it really didn't bother me like I thought it would.
Sure.
I mean, I don't want to play. I don't know why. I don't want to play Centipede sitting down. Doesn't feel right.
Right.
I want to play Centipede standing up. That's the way I'm used to playing. I have a Centipede. That's how I play it.
Right.
I don't use a stool or anything. I stand up and play it. When I was standing up and playing it, I thought this is about right for a cabaret, which are very popular even among arcade collectors in collecting because they're a little smaller, easier to move, and easier to.
Not only that, Tim,
save a little space.
What size monitor is in this thing?
This is a 13-inch monitor, which was the standard.
Right. What size is in the Arcade1Up?
17 inches.
So you get a bigger monitor.
Right.
And about the same height as the Cabaret.
Yes.
So we could technically say that the Arcade1Up on the riser is the same height as a coin-operated arcade game.
Oh yeah.
A Cabaret.
With a bigger screen.
With a bigger screen.
Definitely LCD versus old school CRT.
Right.
You know, the graphics and stuff were really good. So they look amazing, like a Street Fighter. If you haven't seen the video yet, Street Fighter really pops.
So Tim, can you buy a fully working, brand new Cabaret cabinet that plays multiple games and weighs 60 pounds, right? 60 pounds,
right.
Is that what we
60
said?
pounds.
For only $350.
If you can, give me the number and we will purchase with you. We'll buy them all day long. Because we can turn around and sell them for at least double that.
Right, exactly. And that's what you're basically getting with the riser, Tim, is you're getting a fully working, brand new Cabaret arcade cabinet that only weighs 60 pounds, okay, for $350.
Right.
So, I mean, I think, like we've mentioned several times, Tim, for what you're getting for the price, it's a good deal.
Yeah. Is it as heavy and thick and as this and doesn't have lighted? No, this is made to go in an arcade.
Right.
And kids can beat on it and tear it up and, you know, bang on it and all this stuff. It's not this.
Right.
But it's pretty close for a good price. And so, therefore, we have to say it's a good deal.
Well, guys, I want to thank you guys for watching this follow-up video with Tim on the Arcade1Up. If you have any questions, please email us at questions@arcaderepairtips.com, or you can leave a comment right below in the comments section of this video. And Tim, I'll let you sign us off here at Arcade Repair Tips.
When you fix the game, you play the game.
Thank you, everybody. And
goodbye,
take care.
everybody.
Night.